Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a commentary for you with very good gameplay. Normally I start off by saying, well, we had a rough beginning to the game, but I played well later on, or this is a funny kind of class, I don't do really well, but it's fun to use. Nope, today's gameplay, I start off playing excellently, I maintain my excellence all the way through, keep that momentum, and I die very little. As a matter of fact, my first death is about halfway into the video here, and I'm going to die a little bit at the end because I've played so well, I've gotten slap happy and reckless, but I had an excellent feel for this game while I was playing it. Everything just felt right and it was working, and that's the topic of today's video. It's going to be feelings, not the emotional love-hate, envy kind of feelings, but it's going to be the good, bad, smooth, ugly, disjointed, hot streak kind of feelings. So it'll be intuition versus perhaps education or introspection or inspection in general here. And I wanted to tell you that this is the first time that I've used this setup. I have never ever used this setup before, and I haven't used this weapon a whole lot. This was pretty early into my in-depth testing for the weapon that I decided to run the setup, see how it worked, and I didn't even set it up right. As a matter of fact, I usually run blue dot instead of red dot, and I'm like, oh wow, Drifter, what a huge difference. But for me, it makes a big difference. It feels better for me, and for whatever reason, this gun against these players in this situation just absolutely floated my boat and toted my goats, and it worked very well. I played a sort of patrolling, flanking, a little bit of camping. I wouldn't say super high mobility, I would say super conservative mobility, and it worked very well, and it felt great. Matter of fact, I used the MR28 more often now, and I continued doing what I was doing and using this sort of setup just because I liked it. I actually did this before I even looked at the stats of the weapon, so I didn't have any sort of, we'll say, factual information about what I was doing. All I had was contextual or feelings information, and the feel was amazing. And I want to tell you not to discredit your feelings when you're playing these games. I'll use the example of the pro players, how they always find the best weapons even though they've oftentimes don't know very much about gun stats and stuff, and that's what a lot of my channel is education. And on in-depth in other episodes I'll sit here and tell you, oh, don't trust your feelings, this feels great but it's wrong, everybody likes this but it's wrong, it actually doesn't do this, it actually doesn't do that. And the goal there is not to tell you that feelings are wrong, or that your wisdom is wrong, or that your degree of introspection is not introspection, experience is wrong. I chose the wrong word. But to dispel some more common myths, because there is something to your feelings and how you feel about a weapon, how you play the game. Sometimes I play champions in League of Legends just because they look cool. Sometimes I use guns here in League of Legends, not League of Legends, Call of Duty, I'm mixing it up, just because they seem like they would be fun to play, and there's some things that go along with helping that. A positive attitude helps. When you enjoy what you're doing, when you have a positive, friendly outlook, and you're comfortable with your setup, with your loadout, with your situation and your environment, all of these things help. When you feel like you're in control, when you feel comfortable, when you feel happy, that makes you perform much better than nervous, afraid, uncomfortable, disjarred. There is some viability to the theory that you play better when you're out of your element because your desire to survive is stronger and you're playing more conservatively and thinking more. But there's also the thing that just whenever you're comfortable, you're playing better, and that's kind of true for me. Some of my best games are just when I'm laughing and having fun, and not necessarily when I'm thinking super hard. Your unconscious mind does a whole lot of work that your conscious brain very rarely recognizes, so there's definitely some viability to what you are feeling versus what you're thinking at sometimes, or where you get those little inklings of ideas that you're not quite sure where they came from. They're probably coming from your unconscious mind, and that ties into your intuition. Human beings have a very strong intuition. It's not perfect, mind you. Like I said, I do a lot of in-depth stuff here, and I try to dispel some errors in our sort of intuition and where it goes wrong, but it does a lot of things right. Like, again, the pro players, they always manage to find the best guns without knowing any stats, and that's because they play constantly, and they play the thing that feels the best and works the best in their hands and allows them to have the best performance. It's kind of, if it's not broken, don't fix it sort of attitude. And when you play games, if you try a lot of different guns and you get something that works, as long as it continues working, just keep on using it and don't worry about it. Until it stops working, until something goes totally wrong, don't worry about fixing it. So when the chips are down and you know nothing else and you're not sure where to go, what to do next, who to trust, or what to put in your hands, go with your gut. Stick with your intuition, your feelings, and what you think to be right, because it probably will be right. However, I will add a word of caution to this. You should temper with wisdom and knowledge. Blind leaps of faith are usually a bad thing. That's why we call them blind leaps. We are alluding to a blind man jumping off of a cliff or going forward not knowing where he's going, and that's because they're usually chosen in acts of desperation. A blind blind leap of faith based on your gut feeling should never be your first course of action. This is something that you would do when you are absolutely desperate, when there are no other options, when you really are truly terrified. It's an all or nothing kind of gamble. That's when you take the blind leap of faith. Not every day, all the time, on everything. Ignoring information or anti-intellectual... I messed up the word there. Anti-intellectualism. I actually tried to burp in this commentary, but I held it back. Is a very bad thing. I would say this is kind of like the people that are proud that they don't read books. They brag about how much they don't read, or they're glad about how little they learned in school. The same can be said of anything. Call of Duty is a good example. I run the in-depth channel, so you guys are familiar with what I'm doing. I get a lot of people that brag to me about how dumb I am because they knew these things without looking it up, or how I'm wrong because books are dumb and, you know, the information is made up, or numbers are crap and what they feel is better. And that's just silly. That's being ignorant for the sake of being ignorant. That's like the people that vote for politicians based on which one has the best hair, or which one will pander to their specific desires the most. I mean, it's kind of like buying a vote, screwing over 10 people to buy the votes of this one person, that sort of thing. And this is detrimental not only to Call of Duty or gaming, but to life in general. Never be afraid of learning new things or checking it out. You might learn something that you find useful. You might not necessarily like all the things you learn. You might not even agree with them, but never be an ostrich and bury your head in the sand and hide from information. This is just silly. This is what children do when they don't want to learn that Santa Claus isn't real. And so is refusing to change. When you learn some new information, when you learn something new and cool that kind of upsets your worldview, there's a lot of people that will still and try to, I'll say, discredit the information. Oh, it came from this source, it's wrong. Oh, my feelings are that this isn't right, that's totally screwball. Therefore, my feelings better than this sort of hard knowledge. And that's also wrong. Your feelings are strong, they're powerful, they're usually close to where you need to be. But sometimes we're humans. We make mistakes, we do things wrong, we get off topic, we don't think clearly all the time. So when you learn some new information that really upsets your worldview, not worldview, but it's just a small view, something you thought was right and now is wrong, or a method you thought was the best, or just something that you're personally attached to, it's best to just take a deep breath and let it go and change, because the whole world changes, and if you don't change, the whole world's just going to leave you behind. I guess that's a more liberal point of view, or viewpoint from my channel, but sometimes you just got to roll with the changes, and that's how life is. And speaking of changes, and feelings and all this, I wanted to talk about hot streaks here at the end of the episode. We're talking about statistical hot streaks and betting probabilities. If any of you are sports fans out there and you're going to be betting on the Super Bowl or any sort of upcoming championships, there is a strong belief amongst pretty much all humans from all sort of cultures, races, classes, that for whatever reason a person will go on a hot streak and their performance will temporarily exceed that of their normal performance. You see this in almost every single sports movie. There's a motivational speech, somebody's dying and the last game is being played for them and their benefit, and because of that, a particular player that's maybe been struggling or not playing that well will rise to the challenge and play very, very hard. You see this in what we'd call epic sports games. Look at this game where this guy just outperformed. He was on fire, he was magical, he did the best in the world, that sort of thing. And people will take bets based on hot streaks, or they will bet who will go on a streak next, yet there are not a shred of statistical evidence, as far as I'm aware, my education has led me, if I'm totally wrong, please link me to something here, that hot streaks are not a real thing. Never has there been a good study that indicates that once a person starts going on a streak that they will continue doing so. And as much as the numbers are there, I'm going against my own advice in a bit of in a sense here. The feeling is that they are real. They seem very real. I'm a very mediocre Call of Duty player, yet I'm on a hot streak in this game, and I think it may be a construction error with our mathematics, because most of the branch of mathematics called statistics is based on average performance and not necessarily consecutive performance, and it can only handle so many variables that it doesn't really account for all the things that a human being can. But there's no evidence that suggests just because somebody isn't on a hot streak that they can't return to normal, or that they probably won't return to normal very soon. And I would just like to leave that little nugget of information with you right there, that there's no evidence for hot streaks, no matter how real they seem. And they seem very real to me. I just can't seem to shake that advice and say that I wasn't on a hot streak in this game. Or maybe it was because my enemies were very bad. Or maybe I had one of those different mindsets. Or maybe something was different that worked out in my favor. Or maybe this is just the one game in the couple of weeks that I played well. But the advice advice that I would leave you at the end of this episode is that you should play what works best for you in Call of Duty games, or any game really, it doesn't matter, or in life. If something is working for you, if it feels good, if it feels right, the weight of probability is, I'm saying my words so poorly today, probability is that it is right, and it is going to work, and it is going to be good for you. So don't discredit your intuition, don't discredit your feelings, and don't discredit any sort of introspection, but do temper it with knowledge and reason. Don't jump on bandwagons, and don't be afraid to change, because sometimes, you know, we're all wrong. I hope you enjoy the commentary, I hope you learned something useful, and I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Drifter out.